What's going on, guys? It's Fight Season MMA, and today I want to make a video talking about Ilia Topuria. Recently came out and said that he will be a triple champion inside the UFC. As we all know, no one has ever become a triple champion. We've had a couple double champions, Conor McGregor, Daniel Cormier, Henry Cejudo, Alex Pereira. There's been a good amount of double champions, but no one has able to get that triple champion status. Now, right now, the closest person to doing that is Mr. Alex Poatan Pereira if he doesn't get a chance at the heavyweight strap. But Ilia Topuria says that he can go in there and win the featherweight title, which he's already done, go up to lightweight and beat Islam Makhachev, presumably for the lightweight title, and then even win the welterweight title. So today I kind of want to break down a fight between Ilia Topuria and Islam Makhachev, and a fight between Ilia Topuria and Belal Muhammad, and see if Ilia Topuria actually has a shot at winning the UFC lightweight and welterweight titles to become the first ever UFC triple champion. But before we jump into the episode of Fight Season MMA, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. That is the best way to help the channel grow. And while you're down there, please turn on the post notifications, just so you guys are always and fully notified about future UFC content releasing every single day. But without further ado, let's jump right into this episode talking about, can Ilia Topuria be the first ever fighter to become a triple champion? So Ilia Topuria has recently come out and says that he is striving to become a triple champion inside the UFC. That is his main goal. We all know that Ilia Topuria is 15-0, I believe, and he has had 2 wins over the 2 greatest UFC featherweights of all time, excluding Jose Aldo. I want to make that very clear, because Jose Aldo, if he's not number 1, he's somewhere in there in that top area of featherweights. But Ilia Topuria beat Alexander Volkanovski, UFC 298. We don't need to go over that again. Knocked him out with a clean right overhand. Left hook got Max Holloway at UFC 308. That makes him the current UFC featherweight champion, beating probably the 2 greatest featherweights the UFC has ever had in his first title win and title defense. Incredible stuff there from Ilia Topuria. But Ilia has constantly said that he will become a triple champion, and this is very, very, very ambitious of him to say, considering that not only do you have to have a lot of skills to become a double champion, and you got to kind of look at those champions in your way, but you also have to just have that sheer confidence in yourself to do so. And the one thing that we cannot discredit from Ilia Topuria is that confidence that he withholds within himself. Ilia knew that he was going to be Alexander Volkanovski. It's kind of that weird thing that you just kind of knew it was going to happen. And I knew that Ilia Topuria was going to win, considering just the sheer amount of pressure and belief he had in himself to ultimately get that victory. Also, he just went in there and did the exact same thing with Max Holloway, not only being the first person to knock him out, but being the first person to knock him down in one of the most incredible fights I have ever seen with my own eyes at UFC 308. So how would a fight between Ilia Topuria and Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria and Belal Muhammad go? Let's start at lightweight, considering that Ilia Topuria would have to do that belt prior to going up to welterweight, as we've never seen anyone go up 2 division weight classes at all to try to challenge for the title. But let's start out lightweight. How would a fight between Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria go? And this is a very, very hard matchup for Ilia, considering that Islam is so big. And that is the biggest issue right here. I can come out here and clearly say I think Ilia Topuria is one of the best fighters within the organization right now. He is my pound for pound number 2 best fighter inside the organization, that being right behind Islam Makhachev, who would be fighting in the standpoint. Now, I really do make a take that I do think that Ilia Topuria could beat almost every single lightweight in the organization right now. I know that he's still a little bit small, but I think that Ilia Topuria would beat Charles Oliveira. I think he would beat Justin Gaethje. I think he would beat Dustin Poirier. I think Max Holloway, obviously, he would beat. There's all these lightweights I think Ilia Topuria would beat, except Islam Makhachev, and maybe even Arman Tsarukyan, because Arman is a very good fighter himself. But Islam Makhachev is such a good striker, yet such a good grappler. He has the duality that Ilia Topuria has. But I think that Ilia Topuria is probably 1 or 2 best strikers in the UFC, but Islam Makhachev is probably the best grappler inside the organization, either 1 or 2 for him, tied with Khamzat Chimaev. And I do think that Islam Makhachev is a better striker than Ilia Topuria is a grappler. And I kind of want to make that a little bit clear, because that's a little bit of an awkward thing to say. But I think that both in their respective categories, if we talk striking for Ilia and grappling for Islam, they are the top 1% within the organization. But I do think that Islam Makhachev is also in that top 2-3% for the striking, where Ilia is in the top 5-10% for grappling. And I truly do think that Ilia Topuria has a very underrated grappling game. But also, you're going up against Islam Makhachev right here. And I think that the other thing that you can't look past is the sheer size difference between Ilia and Islam. Islam is one of the biggest lightweights we have ever seen within the organization. The fact that he can even cut there is mind-boggling in my opinion. Belal Muhammad says he kind of weighs like 185, 190 outside of camp, I believe. And that's insane considering that you get down to 155 pounds. On the other hand, Ilia Topuria isn't one of the biggest featherweights out there. I do think that Max Holloway's a bigger featherweight than him. You could argue that Volkanovski's a tiny bit bigger of a featherweight than him. There's a lot of Diego Lopez is definitely bigger than him. Brian Ortega is definitely bigger than him. There's a lot of other featherweights that have size on Ilia Topuria. And I do think that going up and jumping up to Islam Makhachev and fighting him would only be an awful thing for Ilia Topuria to do, because I think he would get swarmed by the strength of Islam. Not saying he couldn't win that fight, because he genuinely could, but Islam Makhachev, being my number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world, maybe being top 5 striker and the number 1 grappler in my opinion, I truly think would give Ilia problems, considering that Ilia is smaller than Islam Makhachev has ever fought. And you look at what he did to Alexander Volkanovski, and I truly think that Islam would probably do the same, if not even better, considering that Topuria is a tiny bit smaller. I don't know if he's as good on the ground. I don't know if he's as, kind of disciplined as Volkanovski is. And I know Volk has got caught lacking a couple times, but I feel like that's bigger talking about his chin rather than his technical ability. But truly, I would pick Islam Makhachev to win that belt, but I do think that Ilia Topuria could have a reasonable chance to beat any single other lightweight in the world, maybe besides Arman Tsarukyan. But now going on to welterweight, this is actually, in my opinion, a very interesting fight between Belal and Ilia. And the first thing I have to say in this is Belal is too big. Now, you look at the skills between Belal and Islam. Belal skillfully is a way worse fighter than Islam Makhachev. Now, Belal Muhammad, on the other hand, is even bigger than Islam, and he's a great grappler, which only amplifies that strength being used in those exchanges. Ilia Topuria would have to then run from Belal, which I don't think is going to happen considering his pressure, and there's just no way that I could see Ilia Topuria winning that fight. Now, he could clip Belal Muhammad, but if we're talking about genuinely what would be happening, Ilia Topuria probably cuts from 168 pounds, 67 pounds, and Belal Muhammad weighs in on fight night after his weight cut at 170 pounds. This would be a massive size discrepancy, probably upwards of 15, 20, 25 pounds that Ilia would be going up against. And I just don't feel confident that he would be able to go in there and exploit that, considering how big of a weight difference there is. Now, I'm not saying Belal Muhammad is pound for pound a better fighter than Ilia Topuria, but if you look at a lot of different individuals, that would be the exact same thing as me saying that Dricus du Plessis wouldn't beat Islam Makhachev. I genuinely think that Islam is one of the best fighters, and he has a chance to jump up to middleweight and beat Dricus, but Dricus is just so massive that I don't even think that that's a possibility there in this situation. And I think that kind of goes with with Ilia Topuria and Belal Muhammad. Ultimately, Ilia does have a shot to become a triple champion. He is that good, and I think if Islam Makhachev moves up to welterweight and someone else becomes the champion, maybe like a Charles Oliveira, Arman Tsarukyan, someone like that, at lightweight, Ilia could win that fight. I just don't see Ilia beating someone at welterweight just because Ilia isn't a big fighter himself. I would see Ilia beating someone better at bantamweight, which I don't even know if he could make bantamweight. He probably could if he really, really, really tried, but that would be an awful weight cut. I would see him beating someone there over beating someone at welterweight, because at least at bantamweight, you would deteriorate your chin a little bit. You would not be as healthy going into the fight, but I genuinely think that Ilia would just be so small against someone like Belal Muhammad, Kamaru Usman, Shavkat Rakhmonov. I just think all those guys would kind of ragdoll Ilia, no matter how the skill level is between those two individuals. But Ilia Topuria is one of the brightest fighters the UFC has ever seen. He's making himself his own star, being the first ever Spanish UFC champion. Also with Georgia, he's an absolute menace out there inside the octagon, and he is one of the most, if not the most, exciting fighters the UFC has ever seen. This man knocks out everyone who is in his path, and genuinely, Ilia Topuria is a force to be reckoned with. Thank you guys for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA, and please let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Do you think Ilia Topuria has an actual shot at becoming triple champion? I think that answer is no, just because Ilia Topuria is a little bit smaller. I could see someone like Islam Makhachev becoming a triple champion just because he is a bigger fighter than Ilia Topuria would be when you move up to these divisions 1 or 2 above your natural division. I truly think that Ilia Topuria is a great fighter. I think he might become the greatest featherweight the UFC has ever seen, and I do think that that is something that you cannot take away from him. But genuinely, I think Ilia Topuria is a tad bit too small to move up to, especially welterweight. I think he could win the lightweight title. I do think that Islam Makhachev is a very bad matchup for him, but beating someone like Charles Oliveira, Arman Tsarukyan, Tsarukyan, Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, and a lot of those other contenders at lightweight, I do think would be a very interesting thing for Ilia Topuria to do, and that's something that I would love to see. Well, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA, and please let me know what you think down below in the comment section about this take, and please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and turn on the post notifications if you guys are always willing to stay updated with the most recent UFC MMA content that drops every single day, and I will catch you guys very soon with more UFC content and news.